Hello and welcome to the Where People Meet podcast, the event technology podcast for the worldwide meetings and events industry. I'm your host, Mitch Smolinski, Head of Strategic Partnerships here at Feedloop, and today I'm joined by Lisa Hudson, Director of Global Events at WomenHack. Now, for those in the audience, if you haven't heard of WomenHack, prepare to be amazed because it's an incredible story. In short, WomenHack promotes gender equality in the tech industry by connecting talented female candidates with companies committed to promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. They've got an incredible founding story, but I'm not going to spill the beans on this right now. I'll actually save that for our guest to address. And speaking of our guest, here she is. Lisa, thank you for joining us today. I'm thrilled to have you on the podcast. Where are you calling in from?
Hi, Mitch. I'm happy to be here as well. Right now, I'm calling in from Boston. Actually, we have the event here later today, but I'm usually based out of New York.
That's fantastic. What's the event that you've got going on later today?
So it is going to be a WomenHack event, WomenHack Boston, and we expect about 15 companies tonight and around 40 candidates for our little adventure.
That's very exciting. I'm sure it's going to be a huge success, so best of luck with that.
Thank you.
All right, Lisa. So I want to dive right in. Let's get started. If you can, I'd love to start with you telling everyone a bit about yourself and your background, how you got started in the meetings and events industry. I'm sure we're all very keen to learn more.
Yes, I have quite an interesting, in my opinion, story. So I'm a Russian-born Ukrainian Jew, and I lived most of my life to this point in Russia, and I moved to United States about 8 years ago. So obviously my career started back in Russia. However, it started with organizing events for Scientific American, an American science magazine. When it was launched in Russia, my mom was editor-in-chief, and I was back then 14 and keen to have my own spend money. So I was helping my mom on all the conferences and all the openings and launch of that journal, and that was my first experience with events. After that, when I graduated as a journalist from my bachelor degree back in Moscow as well, I heavily fell in love with public relations, and I was in charge of public relations events. For example, I was building the opening of Cirque du Soleil in Russia when they brought their first show, Cartel, back in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. Then I did a couple of branding interactions on the events such as music festivals and like a Russian version of Burning Man and stuff like that. And now I am at WomenHack. This is very shortly my path to the events where I am right now.
That is incredible. It seems you've been in the industry for a very long time from a very young age. That's fantastic. And out of curiosity, what brought you to moving from Russia to the United States?
Oh, that's even better story. It sounds very ridiculous, but it's true. So I was obsessed with Burning Man for many, many years, living in Russia, having no clue what it is. And one of my friends gave me the best present of all. They got me the tickets to Burning Man. So it was my first time coming to US. All I saw was 24 hours in San Francisco, the road to Burning Man, and then 12 hours before the flight home. And although I was around 24 at the time, or 23, for some unknown reason, my brain was a teenage brain, and I thought that all United States is a big Burning Man. In a half a year, I came to New York to celebrate New Year's Eve with my friends who live here. And I made a wish. It's a traditional Russian thing. On New Year's Eve, when it hits midnight, you write a wish on a piece of paper, you burn it, you put the ashes in your champagne glass, and you need to drink it all like a shot, basically, until the last 12 bell goes off. and I made one wish to find where I belong and be happy, because at that time I was heartbroken. And funny enough, I that wish came true. And 6 months later, I moved to United States, to California, where I lived for like 6 years throughout all parts of California, but mainly in San Francisco. So events not only is my passion and my job, but as well, they literally brought me to this country.
Wow, that's quite the story. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
And speaking of stories, I love this one. So I really think our listeners will get a kick out of it too. Can you please share some details on Women Hack, how the organization got started, and how you've grown into the incredible company that you are today?
So there is our parent company that's called HackerX. They do similar type of the events, and at some point our founders realized that those events are heavily dominated by male attendees, and women get intimidated when they come in and they usually just leave. As well as they saw the opportunity that companies are actually awakening slowly back in 2016 to have more diversity hiring, to give better opportunities and equal opportunities to female in IT as well.
Yep.
And they thought that it's a good idea to try it out. They decided to do that back in 2016 in the end of the year. And I joined in 2017 after they successfully ran one event in San Francisco. But my actual first event was for HackerX as well, just to train me and see if I can do this. It was in Mexico, actually.
Oh, nice.
But right after that, they gave me all the opportunities to choose whatever city I want to choose, trial out the event, and see if it's successful. It was still, I would say, beta stage of our company. And I did the event in Austin, and it was very successful. We had right away 16 companies attending, and we have about 35 candidates attending the event. The absolute majority were women, and the feedback was that it's amazing. They don't feel intimidated. They surprised that there is so many of them actually in tech here in Austin. They made great connections, and there was like a big happy booster for me and for my leadership. And we decided that Women Hack will exist as a company. And at this point, we are in about 45 countries and 130 cities globally. But yes, all started with San Francisco and Austin, the main tech hubs till now, I guess, for United States.
That's so exciting, and I'm smiling just because it's a great story. It's a fantastic initiative. Toronto, I love the city of Toronto just because it's so fast paced. There's a massive tech scene here, and we see a very talented segment of the tech population being female candidates. And I know you've also branched out into just not only reaching out to female candidates, but also newcomers to the country, immigrants. I know you've expanded your reach to try to tap into new audiences as well. And we definitely see that here at Toronto. And within our office, we've got a wonderful grouping of talented female engineers, and they produce fantastic work. So yeah, I love this story. Thank you for that.
Yes, one of the most interesting things about Toronto, or generally Canada, it's one of the most progressive in terms of equal opportunity in tech for women from the countries we work with. It's usually Canada, Norway, Denmark, and surprisingly was Russia back while we were doing the events there, which we ceased, of course, because of current unfortunate political situation, since we don't want to support what's going on right now in that region. But Toronto is actually one of our most exciting events for us. It usually gets sold out very quickly. My colleague Fiona, who lives in Montreal, she's in charge of Toronto events. And it's always great experience for us to see so many candidates attending. I wanted as well to touch a little bit on the point that you made, that we expanded beyond being just gender diverse. We decided to not only, we do still focus on female candidates. We target women specifically, but we are completely inclusive. We include our events include absolutely everyone. It's not limited to race, ethnicity. We work a lot with LGBTQIA plus communities, all age groups. We do as well try to work with people with limited abilities when our hosting companies and the venue gets an opportunity to accommodate their needs. And as well, we do welcome men at our events. We have a lot of great straight men attending who are feminists in their hearts, who support their women and their family. We have a lot of fathers, husbands who are very dedicated to that cause as well. We're welcoming absolutely everyone, but we still heavily focus on putting women first, since it's just right thing to do, because no one did that for centuries, actually.
Yep. And there's still a lot of work to be done. So I'm
Of course.
glad your team is putting that message forward. Very important. Yeah. So one item I'd like to pick your brain a bit more on is just why events are such a successful medium for you. Because it seems as if that is one of the key players in your mission of connecting women with quality employers that are actually committed to promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. So can you expand on this? Can you expand on why events are such a successful medium for helping you to achieve this mission?
I would say there is a couple of things. First of all, as I kind of mentioned before, we receive a feedback that women are surprised to see how many of them actually are in tech in their own city, and it helps to build a community. So it's not only about finding job necessarily with a company that attends, but it's as well finding a mentor or become a mentor for someone else, or recommend someone within your company, or for a friend of a friend or something like that. So it helps to build the community around it, not only like a traditional recruiting event when you just talk to the companies. And it as well on a personal level, what we hear from the candidates and companies, it helps to eliminate this awkwardness of the screening interview and make it more humanized. So I think that's the best best success that we can provide for both parties here. We're trying to explain to all the attendees, the companies who are hiring, the candidates who are looking for the opportunities, that it's not one-way street. It's not only companies interviewing candidates as well. It's supposed to be candidates interviewing the companies, knowing who they are, if that's a good fit for them, not only to be a good fit for the position.
That's a really important piece to highlight is especially for women in tech, like you are a very valuable commodity, and you shouldn't necessarily go after the first opportunity that you come across. You got to work to ensure that it's a good fit culturally, that you're going to be fulfilled there for years to come. And I'm currently in the middle of a hiring blitz right now. We're currently growing the sales team. So that's one thing that I'm keeping in mind too is I want to ensure that the company is a good fit for the candidate and that they can actually see themselves growing and developing with our team for years to come. So yeah, that's a very good point. Now,
yes, I think it's a very important approach. And as well, I forgot to mention one of the other things that we recently figured it out that helps at our events, the candidates. We have candidates coming in sometimes with the idea of change of their career slightly. So from one type of developer to another, or to data, or from UX UI designer to product manager. And usually talking to others who already been through that path, already has that skill set, helps them to make the choice to move forward and advance their career beyond their traditional scope of skill sets. That's as well what I think is important to having those events, to kind of, it's like a showcase or proof to other candidates that it doesn't matter how old you are, where you're coming from, including as well a lot of immigrants who attend our events, or DACA students, or as well, it's very important to see that you can achieve a lot of great things, and it's never late to make a change if you feel like it's something that drives you and gives you passion.
Absolutely. I love that. Now, Lisa, I was doing some research on your events before our interview here, and I can see that over the past couple of years, the event format has taken on a wild evolutionary cycle. Of course, back at the start of the pandemic, you had to transition all of your events from in-person to a virtual format, and you had to do it overnight. Now, I believe at this point, you're doing a combination of in-person and virtual events. But I'd love to hear, like, what's your take on these different event formats? Are there any lessons learned going forward? Is there going to be an event format that you're going to prioritize above the other? Would love to get your feedback on those points.
Yes, so we never intended to have a virtual format, but of course, pandemic decided for us, and we had to, as you rightly said, overnight jump in on a last cart of the train and kind of figured it out on the way. Not gonna lie to you, first couple of months were very stressful for us, for the platform that we were using, because we're constantly bothering the support team that something is not working. And the interesting thing was that most of the people, although they come from IT, if it's something that they're not familiar with as a virtual platform, it took them
Right.
some time to learn. And me being not technical whatsoever, being on the support side, explained a lot how we need to appreciate people when we are on the side of a client asking why is something not working, because sometimes they literally cannot fix it because we're literally not doing what they're saying. So that was a fun take on in the beginning.
Yep.
Afterwards, we started slowly to come back to in-person events while it was safe in particular countries, particular cities. And we saw an interesting thing. So if it's a virtual event, we usually see more candidates attending. First of all, some of the people are less hesitant to be on a virtual event because it's one-on-one interviews, but you're not in a group of people. You can turn off your camera. You can, after one interview, just go and I don't know, take a break and then come back to your computer.
Yep.
Plus, you can be in your PJs and just like something on top, and you don't need to make an effort. And as well, it gives an opportunity for more candidates who open for relocation, part-time, remote, work from home, and those who have not standard working hours. Our events usually start at 7 p.m. and ends at 9:30, but if your working business day is until 7, you will be probably a little bit late, which we completely allow at our physical events. But for some people, due to their culture or how they were raised, it's not appropriate to be late, so they would rather not come into the event at all.
Understood.
And as well, we saw that candidates who genuinely not sure if they're a good fit for this particular event, they tend to still try attend a virtual one because in one or two interviews, they realize if it works for them or not, and it's less intimidating as well. However, the in-person events have much more to give to community building, which is one of our goals as well. And we have a better feedback from candidates in terms of what they gained from the evening. Besides the interviews, they
Yep.
get this feeling of community. They get to see how many women are out there. They get to talk to someone, find a mentor, become a mentor, as I mentioned before. And honestly, nothing can replace face-to-face interactions, even the camera ones. In person, it's much better. Plus, after 2 years of pandemic, people are dying to be out there somewhere, physically seeing people, having a drink or so,
Yep.
or just being around a lot of people. So we decided that for some markets, we will keep it in virtual format. For example, Philadelphia and Baltimore in US would be the cities that would keep it virtual, as well as Quebec City in Canada. Those markets do perform better if it's a virtual event.
Okay.
Some events are going to come back fully to in person, And for some events, we usually do 4 events a year for each market, so quarterly. So we will do 2 virtual, 2 in person. We're trying to explore the hybrid version when we just take the event for 2 days. One day is an in-person event, another one is virtual, allowing the same companies, the same candidates to attend. But we are not sure how the attendance will be on both sides. If it's 2 events, it might be a little bit intimidating.
Yep.
So we will see how it will work. No, we're just trying it out as a new thing. Another thing that I think is important for in-person events, the way they are run. So we run the events like a speed dating format, basically. So each company has a table at the event. We put them in rows. Let's say we have 15 companies, 3 rows of 5 tables, and we form a line of candidate in front of each row and rotate the candidates every 5 minutes. So you have only 5 minutes to talk to the company, which is enough for you to understand if it's a good fit culturally and skill set wise, and as well enough for the companies to do the first screening before they can dive deeper on the particular position they're looking for. And it removes as well the feeling of like, oh my God, it's going to be 20 minutes. What if they ask me this or that? Oh, I need this resume to be tailored a certain way. It makes you more relaxed, and it helps a lot the candidates who are in the beginning of their career or who just relocated to that particular country, because it gives them the option to practice and be less stressed on the interviews. They kind of learn what questions are usually on the screening interviews. So that is only to the point of the in-person events. In virtual events, we do the same format, 5-minute little videos on one-on-one, but it's still slightly different. And basically, I don't know about you, but for me, in 2 years, I'm so tired of video calls.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll talk to you in person, or can I just dial in? Because
I hear you.
Too much effort, too much screen time, honestly. So those are my personal takes, at least, on the format of the events right now.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I like the approach that you're taking, where it's a balanced approach and you're basing it on the region and their preferences. Because we know the virtual format is really good for accessibility, making it an event that anyone and everyone can attend if they want to. But we also understand the strengths of face-to-face interactions, in-person meetings, the community building aspect of it. I think that's a really, really important piece that you highlight. So it's great to hear that you are taking that balanced approach, and I'm excited to follow along and watch the evolution of WomenHack going forward. I think it's fantastic.
Yes, another thing I wanted to mention is just we don't realize that on our part of the world, yours and mine, but there is a lot of companies who are still on a complete lockdown, so they cannot meet physically at any way. And as well, there is countries when there is a limit on how many people you can have in one space, which does not allow us to run a successful event too. So for example, my other colleague, Francesca, who is based out of Italy, she's running the events in Japan, in Tokyo and Kyoto, and they have to be virtual. The country is completely closed for foreigners, first of all. And second of all, within the country, there is a very strict limit on how many people can be in one room, having food and drinks, which is usually a part of our events, having masks on and gloves and sanitizers. And honestly, having an interview, both of you in a mask, is very, very hard. A lot of our cognitive function is to reading the face of a person.
Exactly.
So sometimes you cannot read the emotions because you can see only the eyes, basically. And that's very, very hard for the interviewer as well.
Yeah, that's a really important point you highlight. Very interesting. I think for me, I forgot that a lot of the world still is in lockdown. For us up in Canada, it seemed we were in lockdown for a very long, extended period of time. But now that that's been lifted, it's been nice to enjoy that freedom, getting back to a bit of a sense of normalcy.
That's true. I still think we're never going to be the same after 2 years of being locked down with our loved ones in a teeny tiny spaces. But It's good to feel much more normal than 2 years ago, for sure.
Yes. Amen. Yeah. Well, back to the conversation at hand. What's amazing to me is just the sheer scale of your operations and the fact that you do it with such a small team. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're running about what 20 of these events every month, and your team across the globe is 20 employees. So it seems you've cracked the case on employee productivity. Do you have any tips for event companies and our listeners in the audience on how to make the most out of limited resources and maximize productivity?
Sure. So in our situation, we are under 20 employees.
Okay.
However, the structure is the following. We have three core directors of the events, me, Fiona, and Francesca. We are located in different parts of the world. Technically, our head office is in San Francisco. I don't think there is anyone there, honestly, for quite some time. So we're all remote, like a digital nomads. And then we have a group of volunteers and directors for
Okay.
the events. So directors are usually based in a particular region, in a particular country, which helps us to minimize the cost of their traveling to run the event physically. And volunteers are always local to that particular city of the event. And volunteers are often the candidates who would want to be a part of our event, but they don't have the experience yet, and they just want to be involved and see how everything works.
Yep.
We do pay both, of course, director and volunteers, a small fee for helping us, but that helps us a lot that we don't have to, three of us, literally travel every possible event. But we do travel a lot. As well, we have a sourcing team. Those are responsible to find the candidates according to the needs of the event in a particular city or particular region. And those are our remote colleagues as well. So some of them are in different countries. Some of them I don't even know where they are because they're moving all the time. So that helps a lot, not to have an office that you have to pay for and have everyone in one team, and just moved everything to more digital format and remote format. It helps us to have one call every 2 weeks with the team, not to spend much time on screen trying to fix everything. We communicate through Slack usually, or emails. So you feel like you own your own project, you
Yep.
own your own event, and only if you need help, you reach out to your colleagues, or if you need an advice, which helps a lot because the less people are involved in one particular task, the faster the task is done, honestly. So I run probably 8 events a month, like from 6 to 8 each month.
Okay.
My colleagues do slightly smaller amounts, sometimes like up to 6, I would say, between 3 and 6. So a slow month for Women Hack would be 10, 15 events. The big month would be up to 30 events a month. We're right now at about 780 events throughout the history of the company. And as well, when it's virtual, you can run more events. It's easier. You don't have to travel. You don't have
Yep.
to find the host who would provide the space, food, and drinks for the event. It's much easier on that side.
Okay.
However, nothing can beat the in-person events. I would say that my understanding is to give more freedom to the people who work with you and less micromanagement, because that eats a lot of space, a lot of time, and a lot of effort, I would say.
Yep.
For us, it works. For the business we're running, the way we're running it, everyone is responsible to deliver certain goals, and 2 weeks before those goals needs to be delivered, our leadership checks on us. Do you need any help? You don't? Great. So for some of my friends in the event industry, it looks like we're left all alone to swim in the ocean and no one will save us. But it actually not. It gives you a lot of responsibility, but it helps you to figure it out things much faster. It gives you more liberty within your little scope of the events. You can give, I don't know, a promotion to some of the small companies because you really want them to be a part of the event, but they cannot afford the fee. Or you can upcharge some of the companies because they want to do like all the events together. You can create a specific rate for them for the global sponsoring. So it's more up to you to decide rather
Yep.
than go through all the confirmations of the leadership. Plus, of course, small team always helps. Even if you need something from your leadership, it's usually very fast that they respond to us. But I really appreciate that they give us the liberty of doing literally whatever we want. We have a very small limitations, and we have the goal that we need to reach each month. And even in pandemic, and I'm very proud of all of my team, even during the first months of pandemic, we never were under that goal.
Good.
So
Wow. Yeah.
that's good for us. It takes significantly more time, effort, stress, and losing hair and all other things, but we made it. And I think
Yep.
it's important as well that all three of us, we are running the women-oriented events, and all three of us are female, and we
Yeah.
identify as women, all three of us. So it as well helps to prove the point that is unfortunately still exists, that three women cannot work together. It's going to be a mess. It's not. We're perfectly working together. So I think that's one of the takeaways that I would tell for people in the event industry. But of course, it's not applicable to all the events. It depends what type of events you're running, what type of, do you have any subcontractors or something like that. In our situation, the less supervision, the better.
Yeah, that's a very interesting approach, and it's definitely, of course, incredibly successful for you and your team. So, congrats on all of that. But if I may, it seems as if what works well is your organization does a very good job of goal setting and of communicating that vision and goals to your employees. And then from there, you as the managers, you empower your employees to go out and achieve that vision by their own means. You're not wasting time micromanaging. That's not good for you. That's not good for them. It's here's the goal, here's the mission, here are the different avenues and paths you can take to do it. Now go out and execute. And I think that's a fantastic organizational model. I think that's a fantastic managerial model. I think a lot of our audience can learn and get some key takeaways from that.
I think one of the best things personally for me that our leadership does, besides setting up the goals very clearly, they tell us, if you see that something's not working, come to us. We can always revise that. It's not carved in stone. Everything can be changed. Let's be flexible. Plus, for example, on the tool side, all three of us who are running the campaigns to attract companies to our events, we use different mail merge tools, different sourcing tools. They told us whatever you're used to, whatever is working for you specifically, we will provide it. If you don't like, I don't know, that brand and you want to go with that software, no problem. Whatever you want, you can do that. So they don't try to make us fit in one box,
Yep.
which would eliminate a lot of freedom, and as well, which might create a lot of tendencies or like pauses in our work. I'm a slow learner for software. I love to reuse the ones that I was using for ages.
Yep.
And as well, I sometimes receive a referral from one of my colleagues saying like, oh, you should check it out. That works better. That helps a lot. Plus, I think the general idea, we're like in my mind, it's a true startup company, true Silicon Valley company. When you own your project, you own the responsibilities. We're here to help, and we're happy to do so, but we're not going to bother you until you tell us that you need help. We're not going to come and ask all the time, not to make you frustrated. So I think that's one of the best things that our leadership does, that they're very flexible. They're allowing us to do whatever we want. And when we work with our directors, volunteers, our sourcing team, we translate that message the same way, saying, let me know what you need. We'll find the solution. If something that we expect from you is not doable, just let us know. We'll see what we can all do together. It's like brainstorming only when you actually need it, instead of doing it, I don't know, every week, trying to see how we can do better. If we're already doing great, that's amazing. If there is no ideas how to do better, maybe it's not a time yet. They
Yep.
will come to you when it's time. Try not to like reinvent your business just because you think you didn't change anything in 2 months. Maybe you're losing it. Maybe you're just ahead of the whole industry. You never know.
Yeah, love it. And it seems to be an incredible place to work for. So I'm glad you're there. I'm glad you're doing the work that you do. It's incredibly important. And before we wrap this up today, I know we've been talking a lot about Women Hack and your organization, some of the things that you all do very well, and some of your lessons learned over the past couple of years. But I know you also have a lot of experience in the events industry and planning a wide variety of events. So I'd like to conclude today. Outside of your work with Women Hack, just to events and event planners in general, are there any tips, are there any tricks that you can share with our audience on how to be the best event professional you can?
I think they're very standard, honestly, but of
Yep.
course I'll share. I don't think I'm going to bring any new interesting points, but it's always important to know that you're not serving anyone and no one is serving you. It's a mutual business. You're doing this together for one particular goal, whatever event that is. You need to be respectful. You need to be very flexible, knowing it's like planning a wedding, basically. You will plan 100%. If 70% actually happen, that's an amazing ratio. That's the same with any event. Something will go wrong and just be ready for it. For me specifically, it's easier to have few options. If everything goes wrong, how I will fix it. It just brings me some peace and quiet, I would say.
Yep.
But generally, just know that the people you're working with here doing the same thing. They're not. You don't need to do more or less. Just work with them as partners.
Yep.
Speak your values, whatever events you're running. It's important that your values personally are working with those of the event or people you're working with or for, because if it's something that's deep inside contradict what you believe in or what you rooting for, nothing good will come out of it. You will make it work, but it's not going to be that successful in the long run. And don't be shy to ask for help. The worst thing that will happen, they will tell you no. Don't be shy to ask for a small discount from people you're working with as subcontractors. Again, the worst thing will happen, they'll tell you no. And
Yep.
be flexible on your side as well. If there is someone who wants to be a part of your team or your event, give them the chance. Find a way to maybe use them as a volunteer or give them a discount or something like that. Be flexible. That's the most important thing in the events, because no matter how hard you plan, it's never going to be 100% what you plan for. And sometimes it's actually for the best. Sometimes you figure out, like, oh my God, I didn't know it will happen that way. And it's actually significantly better than the one that I planned for all these years, months, or weeks. So those are very standard tips, but I think they are standard for a reason because they work.
They do. They do. And they're fantastic tips, Lisa. So thank you. I'm very grateful that I had this opportunity to sit down and speak with you. This was a fantastic conversation. I know the audience is going to get a lot of value out of this. And I have a funny feeling there may even be some members in the audience who want to learn more about Women Hack and possibly get their companies to exhibit at your events to see if they can find talented female tech employees to bring on. So if they want to learn more about Women Hack, or if they want to learn more about you as a professional and to follow along with you, where can they go? Is LinkedIn the best place? Is there a website? How can the audience learn more about you and your organization?
Yes, our website would be the best way, or
Okay.
my LinkedIn, which I hope you will be able to list somewhere underneath
Yep.
our little podcast. I as well will give you you have my email, but you will give it to everyone if they need to reach out. I'm pretty responsive with my emails.
Great.
If they have any questions, if they want to be a part of the event as a company, as a candidate, if they just want to volunteer and support our mission, or just have any questions and want to stay connected for any of my experience, not necessarily with Women Hack, but outside as well. Or if they just relocated to the country, they have no idea where to start. I've been through this. I can as well suggest some things here and there too. you're all welcome to reach out to me directly, my LinkedIn, my email, or the website of the company. Mitch will make sure that all of them are available for you.
I will. I absolutely will. We'll get all of that in the show notes. But again, Lisa, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I don't have anything else. So that wraps up our episode of the Where People Meet podcast with Lisa Hudson from Women Hack. Listeners, thank you for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful remainder of the day, and we'll see you next time on the Where People Meet podcast. All right. Thanks, Lisa.
Bye-bye.